Shouldn't we be saving
Torna
us from
Malice?
You relax, I am trying to find every pine cone, okay?
I want to take a minute to talk about Torna the Golden Country, the latest expansion DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. As you may know, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was one of my favorite games of last year. Yes, I know I didn't put on the list, and you stop! So I was very excited when they announced that Torna would basically be an entirely new and separate game. I mean, they did not have to do that. They've been giving us plenty of stuff with the expansion pass already, and then you're giving us an entire game as well? Jesus, man! And for the most part, it is. It has a different but similar battle system. There are completely new areas as well as some redesigned old ones. It has its own leveling, items, crafting mechanics, quests, characters, and more. It really is its own game, albeit much smaller than the usual Xenoblade game. Now, I like this expansion a lot. It had a short but incredibly impactful and engaging story, great characters, some nice improvements to the battle system used in the base game. That said, there is one massive problem with the game that I think a lot of people are overlooking. See, Torna has a system called Community in which it keeps track of all the NPCs you meet during your journey. When you do side quests for them, they get added to your community. This feature is similar to the affinity chart from the first Xenoblade game. In isolation, this system is actually rather nice.
It gives you a nice sense of progression as well as an attachment to the NPCs.
However, there is a very, very problematic stipulation to this. You see, in order to progress the main story past a certain point, you have to raise your community level to 2, which requires you to do somewhere between 12 and 16 side quests before you can even advance. This brings the game's excellent pacing that it had been building up all this time to a grinding halt for effectively no reason. Once you do that, a single story event plays out, like so, and it keeps going and you're having fun, and then, in order to progress again, you have to get your community level up to 4, which requires at least 25 more side quests on top of the ones you have already done, at least. What's more, most of these side quests aren't even available until you get to community level 3, so you can't do all of them at your leisure. They don't automatically all open up. You have to do them in a certain, order. Now this to me screams of padding, just plain and simple. This is padding. I'm of the opinion that a game should never require you to do side quests. They're called side quests for a reason. They're extra stuff that you can do if you want to continue playing the game after you're done with the main story, or if you want to extend your adventure while you're playing the main story. But it should never be a requirement in order to proceed through the game as normal. It seems like it's just padding for time for really no reason, and the worst part about it is that it doesn't really need to do this. Like I said, the expansion pass already has so much in it for the base game, and then they're adding this Torna expansion on top of that. You're already getting your $30 value. So adding this stipulation of required side quests, especially this much, screams to me of a strange way to pad out the game's running time so they could put it on the box, I guess. Now, I've already seen a lot of people defending this and saying that it's actually a good design choice, and I'm gonna go over the reasons why people are saying that, and I want to give it some bit of merit. The one I'm seeing the most is that narratively it's more impactful because you're more connected to the NPCs, so when Torna inevitably falls, as is the premise of the game, you feel a greater attachment to it and it feels a little more personal.
I'd be more inclined to believe that argument if the NPCs actually did something or had something to do with the ending. Like, do you see them on the evacuation ship? Do they help in the fight against Malos? Is there any sort of involvement they have other than just being there? Really, the only reason they ask you to do the side quest is to get to know the community, which I guess is okay for emotional attachment, but it doesn't really give you that emotional attachment if there's no payoff. And that's why I don't really buy that argument too much. I think you shouldn't require side quests, but instead incentivize doing side quests. And when you require the player to do side quests, it gives the player a sense of,
You can't tell me what to do!
so the best way to get them to do those side quests is to incentivize it, make it worth their while. And I know what many of you will be saying, well, if you do the side quests, you get items and all this kind of stuff, but I don't think that's enough, especially when those items are not required or really that helpful at the end of the day. And let's be clear here, you're not getting that much from these side quests. Believe me, I did them.
You don't get that much, and there's no real satisfaction from doing them, for the most part. A lot of them are just collection quests, just having a certain amount of items and then putting them into a menu. Like, that's not fun to me. I like some of them, but not enough of them where I feel like this stipulation is required. Instead, why not give them some level of both moral depth as well as gameplay depth? Let me give you an example. In one of my favorite games of all time, Mass Effect 2, eventually after you recruit your crew, there are these loyalty missions that pop up. First of all, they're very detailed missions that have their own voice acting and everything and all that stuff. They're important to the characters and they're important to you, but more than that, doing these side quests will help you get a better ending. They'll help you get through the final mission easier. But the thing is, you don't have to do them. If you don't want to do them, you can get to the end of the game without doing the loyalty missions, but they're there to incentivize the player. Now, obviously, Torna can't really do something like this because it has one ending, it's a linear story progression, it can't have, like, branching paths or anything. That's fine. Let me add another example of something that would work. Let's go with Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. As most of you know, you can get through that game after you do the Great Plateau. You can rush straight to the final boss. Of course, you're gonna have a bad time if you do this because you are completely unprepared and you're gonna have a gauntlet of fights. So the Divine Beast quests are there in order to incentivize you to do them because they give you preparation and a real gameplay reward that makes you feel like you've actually done something. With the Torna side quests for community, it feels like all you're getting is a circle in another circle. That's all it feels like I'm getting. It's just a collection quest. It's just one big collection quest, and it's not fun to me. Now, the other problem that the community system brings up is from a gameplay perspective, because it completely kills the pacing of the game and the story that the game is trying to tell. You know, especially for the kind of player who wants to go through and do the story because the story's so engaging and they want to find out what happens next. But all of a sudden, they're hit with this roadblock. And it just kills the pacing, and this happens twice. One of them is not too bad, it's only community level 2, but then it doubles that for level 4. And it just kills this pacing because it gives the player the sense of rebellion. Like, I put this game down for a while when that community level 4 prompt popped up. Because I didn't want to bother. I didn't want to bother doing all those side quests all at once, so I kind of just spread them out. And I went into play Spider-Man because Spider-Man let me go through the game story one after another, regardless of what side quests I do. I did them because the game incentivized me, but I didn't have to. I think if these side quests were a little more incentive-driven, rather than being forced into the player in order to give the game a sense of longer running time, I think it could have given that impactful feeling that I think a lot of people are defending it for, that narrative feeling for these NPCs, but I don't think it delivers that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this. I just wanted to get it out because I saw a lot of people talking about it and I just couldn't ignore it because it was something that bothered me. Obviously, if you disagree, let me know in the comments below. I really do want to hear what you have to say because some people actually like the system and they have somewhat good reasons. I wanted to try this more unscripted, rant-based kind of thing so that I don't have to spend so much time writing scripts. I am writing a script for a video coming up soon. I'm sorry that there haven't been videos. I'm going to talk about why and eventually, but, you know, it's another time. Anyway, thank you for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, all the usual YouTube, hit the bell. I guess I have to say that. But anyway, that's it. That's all. See you guys next time.